Hello, everyone. Good day, and welcome to our webinar on port electrification strategies and program. My name is Simbiat Yusuf, Member Relations Manager at Fourth. And before I pass it along to our moderator today, Barrett Brown, who is a Program Manager at Fourth, we have a few announcements from the Fourth team. Attendees, we ask that you please be sure to submit your questions during the presentation via our attendee chat. We'll be getting through those questions during the Q&A portion after all of the presentations today. We will also be sharing the presentation slides as well as the recording of the presentation shortly after the webinar. So if you miss any slides or if you have any additional question on a slide, we will be sharing those with you. And as we always begin, who are we? Fourth is a nonprofit trade association advocating for smart transportation through our work in four main focus areas, which are demonstration projects. As you heard last 2 weeks, we talked about our e-tractor project, and that is one of our recent demonstration projects. We also work in policy advocacy, consumer engagement, and innovations. We are based in Portland, but our work takes us internationally. And our webinars and the work we do at Fourth cannot be done without the support of our members and sponsors for webinars. We want to thank our members and we value your contributions to Fourth. If you would like to get more information about Fourth, our membership, our sponsorship opportunities for these events, you can reach me at my email, which is on the screen, simbiaty@fourthmobility.org. Roadmap, we are 7 weeks away, I believe, and the program is live on the website currently. If you have any questions regarding Roadmap, which will be taking place virtually in 2021 on June 14th through the 16th, we have 3 half days of events, networking opportunities, and more prepared for you all. If you would like to learn about sponsorship opportunities for this virtual conference, or learn more about the program and see what's in store for you all, please feel free to reach out or go on our website at roadmap4.org. For sponsorship inquiries, please reach out to our International Marketing Manager, Ashley Duplanty, at ashley.d@fourthmobility.org. And with that, I will pass it on to Barrett for our speaker introductions.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Hello, everyone. My name is Barrett Brown. I'm a program manager with Fourth, based out of Portland, Oregon, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Before I introduce our panelists, I'd like to highlight some stats that really speak to the importance of port electrification. Although the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles handle approximately 40% of U.S. imports, they still overwhelmingly rely on diesel as a source of energy. For example, a cruise ship that is docked produces the equivalent pollution of 10,000 cars in a 24-hour period. Thus, it's no surprise that ships and commercial vessels are projected to be the leading cause of smog emissions in Southern California, with an expected 49 tons of nitrogen oxide projected to be released into the air each day by 2023. And that's just the ships. The results of this are quite clear, with communities directly surrounding the port, who are more often than not communities of color, having the highest risk of cancer and asthma in the state. Obviously, the stakes are quite high, and as such, some very dedicated people are working to solve this problem. Today, we have 3 of those individuals to speak to their efforts on addressing this complex issue. First, we have Michael Huggins, who is the Senior Manager for Landside Operations at the Portland International Airport. Michael joined the Port of Portland in 2007, and his responsibilities include the management of public and employee parking operations, the airport shuttle bus operations, and ground transportation regulations and operations. Prior to the Port of Portland, Michael worked for over 10 years in landside and terminal operations for the Port of Seattle. He has also held a teaching position with Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, instructing in courses that include airport operations, management, planning, and design. Next, we have Dr. Aravind Kailas, who is the Advanced Technology Policy Director at Volvo Group, where he oversees policy development, technology outreach, and public engagement strategies to further Volvo's interest in automated driving, electromobility, and connectivity. By promoting key corporate positions and creative assets in various forms, Dr. Kailas has been instrumental in enhancing Volvo's technology thought leadership. Dr. Kailas also spearheaded local stakeholder development for introducing Volvo's electromobility solutions in North America. And finally, we have Bernat Adriá Mora, who is a project technician at Fundación Valenciaport in Spain. Bernat works on European projects related to sustainability and energy transition. The implementation of renewable energies and the use of alternative fuels play a key role in the Port Authority's plan to reduce pollutant emissions in the port environment. Bernat has co-authored scientific articles in the fields of health and the environment, primarily focused on air quality and atmospheric emissions. Next, I would like to ask all of our panelists to turn their cameras on. We're going to do a brief introductory question. Thank you very much. And to the panelists, what is the best advice that you have received as you start working on transportation electrification projects? And Bernat, if you're all right, starting us off.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think a good advice is to include all the parties that will be directly or indirectly affected by your project since the beginning of the project. For instance, we have worked with leading manufacturers such as Terberg and Heister on the manufacturing and piloting of LNG fuel terminal tractors and the hydrogen fuel rich takers. To mention a couple of examples, in our project, it has been very important to involve the dockers, the stevedores in the project to guarantee that they will be okay operating these types of equipment. They have helped us defining the training program for them and have been trained accordingly. The Port Authority of Valencia and the Regional Ministry of Industry have also been involved from the very beginning to adapt the safety protocols that are applied in the port to these new fuels and define the ATEX zones that will be applied when this equipment will be refueling.
Great, yeah, involving everyone early on. And Dr. Kailas, your thoughts?
What he said. No, but that's a good answer. But I think chiming on, I'll say, in order to involving the many stakeholders that you know, that you may not know, I think you want to be adaptable and recognize that this is going to take a little bit of time. And so, this will take time. I think that's the takeaway. And then if I could maybe sneak in another sort of sub-bullet here, I think the focus has to be on the application, not just thinking of electromobility or electrification as a switch, but rather thinking about what are the applications that are ready for this new transition and going from there and maybe trying to apply some of these results to other similar problems. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And finally, Michael, what is the best advice you have received?
Well, I think it's a little bit different in the airport environment as you really have to be patient. I think in the communities, there's a lot of early adoption into the electric vehicle market. I think in ground transportation, it's a little bit harder. As we build infrastructure, access to vehicles, for ground transportation operators is costly, but they also kind of have some range anxiety. So also getting out there and having open dialogue and communicating and educating the operators about how they can best take advantage of the newest technologies and get into the electrified vehicle market to serve their customers.
Great. Yeah, I hear communication early on really is a fundamental part of this. All right, if our presenters wouldn't mind turning their cameras off, I have a poll question for our audience, which you should all be able to answer. There you go, perfect. What is your mode of transportation to the airport? We have private vehicle, carpool, or TNC. That would be a Lyft or Uber, public transit, micromobility, and horseback, which feel free to use as an other, although I do see one person there. All right. Private vehicle seems to be very far ahead. I guess that's no surprise. Unfortunately, there's no one taking a bike. All right. Well, there we go. All right. Well, fantastic. As a reminder, we invite all attendees to submit questions during the webinar via the chat function. And with that, I will turn it over to Michael from the Port of Portland to lead us off.
Thank you. Okay. Again, my name is Michael Huggins. I'm the Senior Manager of Landside Operations at Portland International Airport. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our airport and the Port of Portland, and then get into our efforts that we're making now. First, the Port of Portland does operate and own 3 different airports in the Portland area. One is our international airport, and 2 others are general aviation airports, where they do a lot of flight training, but there's also corporate aviation out there, and also a force fighting detachment over in Troutdale, where they fuel up airplanes with water so they can go out and fight fires. We do have 4 marine terminals as well, where we do 11 million tons of cargo throughout the year. And we also own and operate 5 business parks with a myriad of different uses, from warehousing to manufacturing and distributing of different goods. Our airport, all of these are pre-COVID numbers. We like to talk about that versus the dip we're in, and I'll kind of show you the impact that COVID had on us as an airport. But we exceeded 19 million passengers in 2019. Our air cargo operations are 267,000 plus short tons, and our operations at the airport, meaning our takeoff and landing operations, are over 230,000 operations, and that includes commercial aviation, which you see in the picture, general aviation on our business corporate side, and also we have a military fixed operation on our south side of the airport with our Air National Guard. At PDX, we employ over 9,000 airport employees. About 2/3 of those do park in our employee parking lot, which is actually only about 2,400 parking spaces. So given the 24-hour operation, we don't fill that lot as much as we do. We do have a lot of access to our airport through light rail, bike paths and such. And people do take advantage of that, as well as being dropped off and picked up. So the Port of Portland is committed to an air quality program, and in that we do everything on the airfield as much as we can, including preconditioning the air, just like on ships with shore power, providing the air to the aircraft through the APUs and stuff through electrified gate system. But we're also committed to green transportation, which includes our multi-use paths to the airport. And we do have a lot of people, it's particularly the employees, that ride bikes to the airport and back. We have a light rail system that does connect right into our baggage claim area, which is easy and convenient, and service does come in and out of the airport about every 15 minutes. On the parking side of things, we provide a single space parking guidance system, which has reduced our time as far as vehicles searching for a space from a minute and a half to just seconds once they enter, because it guides them right to the first available space. Quick pay, common technology now, where you pay before you return to your vehicle. This reduces idling at the gates as people exit. But on the other side of things, we're committed to alternative fuels, including our compressed natural gas, which are our bus fleet, and we just converted all of that to renewable compressed natural gas. We have a port fleet that includes hybrid and electric vehicles, and we're committed to, and I'll talk a lot about this now, our public and employee e-charging options for airport users. So our PDX parking operations is over 19,000 parking spaces with a variety of options, including valet, short-term, long-term, and our economy parking. We have an employee parking option, and we took advantage of slower times with COVID and are continuing with our construction of our new parking facility that includes 3 floors of a consolidated rental car facility. That's one of the highest marks we get as far as customer service, is having the rental cars on site just across the street from baggage claim. And also it'll have 3 floors on the top of additional public parking. So in evaluating electric charging options, we have to really look at our consumers and how they use our facilities. In 2019, we neared 170,000, almost 200,000 transactions in our parking facilities per month. But with COVID, things dropped off significantly. It allows us an opportunity to kind of do some of those capital projects without impacting the customers very much, but you can see that traffic is starting to pick up again with about 50% of our transactions again back in March. Our length of stay is important for us to consider as we look at our electrification options for vehicles. Short-term parking, which is used on the right graph here, our average transactions were between 4 and 6 hours. So we wanted to provide an option that best suited those customers. And our longer-term parking, long-term as well as economy parking, that's basically 3 to 6 days. So for that, a level 1 charging solution was the most economical for us, not only to install and maintain, but since we provide parking or charging for free, it's a relatively inexpensive option in that regards. We have 70 parking stations throughout our public parking system, including 36 in our economy lot and 34 in our short and long-term garages. And these are level 2 in there, about 50% more efficiency as far as charging vehicles in those closer in parking options. In our airport parking, employee parking facility, we just increased the number of charging stations throughout. We had 18 in our remote parking lot for our employees and gone up to 28. So we have 51 charging stations available now throughout the facility. And you can see by the technologies, they're all different levels. Our fleet, as I said earlier, we're committed to alternative fuels, including electric vehicles. We have the General Electric level 2 charging stations for our fleet vehicles. And you can see these vehicles operated not only on our port property, inside and outside of the secured area, but also out in our community. And we have, lots of markings on the side with our commitment towards electrification. On the ground transportation side of things, you can see also the similar trend where COVID really took a hit on our operations at the airport and people coming in and out of the airport. During our peak, we did about 160,000 pickups at the airport, and being a heavy origin and destination airport, you can basically double that number to see the total transactions for ground transportation at the airport. We don't have a lot of transfer traffic like our partners down at Denver, but we do see a lot of people start and end their trips at Portland. So in evaluating the different modes we provide for them, if you look at the number of taxis and TNCs operating at the airport, it's a significant number of vehicles with low occupancy taxis as well as TNCs. And TNCs are Ubers and Lyfts, our transportation network companies. So in that, we also evaluated, what's the best bang for the buck as far as the charging stations and the availability of chargings to get the users, the ground transportation providers, out in the community and back to the airport, because if they're not at the airport, they can't provide transportation to our customers leaving or getting to the airport. So we evaluated the number of cars out on the market, and I'm sorry if not every vehicle is listed on there. This is a couple of years old, but we wanted to make sure we're providing something that people can get out and back. And so looking at the technology that can provide the highest level of charge in a 15-minute period, which is about our average wait time out there for our TNCs in the hold lot. So we selected a DC fast charger solution. We start installation on 5 of these in our hold lot, and that will start at the end of next week. And this we chose because of the high reliability. It minimizes our maintenance costs and the universal compatibility. So as we partner with Forth to gain access to the secondary TNC or market for electric vehicles for our taxis and our TNCs, this provided us the best solution to get those vehicles in sufficiently charged so they can get to the airport and use the customers, get the customers out of our airport. So in the future, as we move forward, we want to increase our charging station capacity based on our demand. So we continue to evaluate use in both public employee parking as well as our ground transportation environment. And as more adapters come on, we have provided enough capability in our systems to expand easily in a linear pattern just down those parking spaces. For us, the benefits way exceed our downside here. We really value our customer service at our airport, and this gives us an opportunity to kind of push that out in our community, brag about it, and do what we can to provide the best services we can for our airport users, our ground transportation providers, and our public that surround the airport. And I think I made it in time. So I think we're saving questions to the end, but I appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. It's really interesting to hear about how COVID, through everything, perhaps provided a little bit of an opportunity in terms of resetting and installing infrastructure. I have to say my favorite thing about the Portland airport, though, is the dedicated area to bike assembly for those who are traveling with their bicycles. So really was really happy to see that. Moving on, we have Dr. Kailas from Volvo. Doctor, if you wouldn't mind, if you're able to turn your camera on.
Hey, so I'm actually having some difficulty with my platform, and I'm actually trying to join this using my phone now, and somehow it's not working. So I don't know what to do. I mean, if you wouldn't mind running the slideshow for me, at least I can.
Yeah. Let's. I think it would probably be best, Cindy, if you'd be able to help him with that. Maybe we can switch it up and move on to Bernat, so that we can have some time to kind of work on those technical issues. I apologize.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, apologize. Yeah, I just don't know what's going on here.
Fantastic. Thank you for your flexibility, Bernat.
That's fine. Thank you. So, good morning. As Barrett said, I work in the Port of Valencia in national and European projects related to sustainability and energy transition. This presentation is focused on electrification of ports. And I'll start with a short overview of the EU regulation, and then I'll speak about the environmental challenges of our sector. The third point will be about the project of electrification here, which is the core of the presentation, and I'll conclude with future actions. So the European Green Deal, as some of you may know, is the strategic plan to mitigate the climate change, and its main objective is to achieve climate neutrality in the EU by 2050, including maritime transport. Some initiatives are also being studied, such as including the maritime transport in the emissions trading system or applying the carbon tax to the sector. Sorry for skipping some info in the slides, but there's a lot of content. I believe you'll get the presentation afterwards. Anyway, about the vision, the EU should be among the first to achieve the net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2025 and 2050, and lead the way worldwide. There's also a midterm goal, the reduction of these emissions by 55% in 2030, having 2008 as a reference. So, second, environmental challenges of the port maritime sector. There are many grand environmental challenges: the fight against the climate change, zero waste, the need of biodiversity preservation, clean oceans, etc. Now, the clean energy, it's a solution and a grand challenge itself. All this within the context of having to increase the competitiveness year after year. In Valenciaport, we are developing the strategic plan of net zero emissions, and the objective is is clear, to be a net zero emission port by 2030. We have created several working groups in order to define action plans which will bring decarbonization to the port. So as you can see, shipping, terminals, well, basically the entire port community is involved on this. The next section, the successful electrification projects here. So there's still a long way to go for us compared to the West Coast main ports there, but we already have some experience in electrification. So about the retrofitting of port equipment and vessels to clean energies and fuels, I'll summarize some of our projects. We performed an analysis to understand the origin of emissions and consumptions in a container terminal. And we saw that emissions by diesel are mainly generated around 90% by equipment such as RTGs and terminal tractors. On the left, the electric consumption comes from reefers, ship-to-shore cranes, lighting, and buildings. But this electricity comes from renewable sources already, at least during the last years. Within an innovation project called Sea Terminals, we collaborated with leading manufacturers of different types of equipment, working with alternative fuels, as we can see in the following slide. So you can see here eco versions of RTGs, electrical terminal tractors, also eco versions of reach stackers and front lifts, as well as dynamic lighting in the terminals. In the next slides, some of these examples are shown. So the Sea Terminal dynamic illumination is based on the efficient use of lighting. At night, many areas of the terminal do not present activity. However, lighting usually is working 100%. This concept presents some movement sensors in a wide range, up to 300 meters. If movement is detected, intensity is increased to 100%. But when the area is quiet, the intensity is reduced to 20 or 25%, or to the decided threshold. Lighting towers were removed and LEDs were put, and then the movement sensors. So some numbers here. These are the savings thanks to this concept. The electrical consumption was reduced by 80%. Besides, the payback of the investment for this project is less than 2 years, and the internal rate of return is over 35%. We also worked with leading companies such as Terberg, Heister, and Paceco in the development of eco-friendly versions of this kind of machinery, as well as with an electrical terminal tractor, which is shown in green, and we can also see it in the next slide. So these are some of the characteristics of the electrical terminal tractor: batteries, power, autonomy, and recharging time, which depends on the plug type. I know I'm going fast, sorry for that. Okay. So here we can see a comparison between liquefied natural gas terminal truck, also developed here in the port, and a full electric terminal truck. The electrical terminal truck has not been widely commercialized yet because one of the downsides is the low autonomy, which is less than 6 hours, not enough to cover a shift in the port, and especially compared with the refueling time. Another problem is that the equipment cost is much higher than the diesel version. This is an Eco RTG crane. We also developed this genset to store the energy generated in the downward movement of a full container by these RTG cranes. This energy is stored in the genset and then used again by the crane when needed for lifting the load again. So one of the biggest achievements for the Port of Valencia in terms of electrification is that the MSC Terminal Valencia Brownfield Terminal, which is operating almost at 100% of its capacity, decided to electrify every RTG cranes on its yard. They own 18 electrified RTGs, what brings savings of 3,500 tons of CO2 every year, as well as reductions in noise and particulate matter. This was the first terminal to do this in the whole Europe. It's been a long path of collaboration among terminal equipment manufacturers in order to find the best low carbon options. And so we got to the point in which we are developing the first application of hydrogen technologies in port handling equipment in Europe. A hydrogen-rich stacker is being developed to be tested in MSC Terminal Valencia, and a hydrogen yard tractor to be tested in Valencia Terminal Europa. And in order to provide energy to this equipment, a mobile hydrogen refueling station is also being used. So ELING is a project, a large European project coordinated by us, by Fundación Valenciaport, focused on the cold ironing or onshore power supply. ELING objectives are to create a harmonized and interoperable regulatory framework in order to facilitate this onshore power supply implementation in European ports, to ensure the vessel compatibility with the ports of the consortium, and to lead the necessary financial, legal, technical, and environmental studies to accelerate the cold ironing and electric infrastructures and equipment in ports. So the consortium consists of 12 port authorities, 3 public institutions, which handles every port of a country, such as the Bulgarian Ports Infrastructure Company and the Marine Institute of Ireland, and 7 technical and consulting companies, including us. We also promote safe and clean mobility, collaborating in different projects of integration of port with the city. They may not be in the core business, but it is also important to mention this. For example, some port project, including the implementation of electric bikes for cruise passengers, among other actions. So the path ahead. This is the last part of the presentation, and so finally the Port of Valencia will be implementing different types of renewable energy, as can be observed in the map and in the list of the following presentation. Sorry, 1 second. Yes, you will have access to this presentation. You can check afterwards as well. But some examples you can see here are the photovoltaic conventional panels, an electrical substation, a 15 megawatt wind farm, innovation projects such as wave and solar hybrid systems, heterojunction bifacial PV cells, clean energy storage on batteries, a mobile hydrogen refueling station, green hydrogen production with electrolyzer, etc. So looking at the future, we are defining the actions to develop in terminals, road transport, shipping, and in all the different working groups. And the electrification is key within all these action plans. For instance, in terminals, one of the terminals, MSCTV, has been already electrified, as I explained, but there are 2 more container terminals that need to electrify their yards. In the case of road transport, there are several options. One of them, for example, could be the use of electric or hybrid trucks. And concerning the shipping, as most of the emissions happen while berthing, affecting the air quality and citizen health, the onshore power supply or cold ironing, as explained, is the most interesting option so far. So that's all on my side. Thank you so much. And should you have any questions?
Bernat, thank you so much. One thing, we'll save the questions for the end, but one thing I kept thinking of was we always think of the pollution and the emissions that come, but we don't typically think of the sound pollution that comes from ports. And throughout your presentation, I just kept in this vision in my head of this, not silent, but much quieter port working. And I'm really excited to see this transformation. Moving on, Dr. Kailas, if you were able to work out those technical issues, I'd be more than happy to advance the slides for you if that's necessary.
I hope you can still hear me, and been going back and forth with Symbiot, and I maybe there's really bad internet connection or something to do with my work laptop. I'm afraid y'all are not going to get to see me on video. I'm still trying to sort this out, but if my audio is still clear and if you're willing to advance the slides, let's keep this moving as I will continue to try and get on video.
Sounds great, and I appreciate your persistence. So take it away.
I apologize to you and to the audience, the technical difficulty, but hopefully we can still make this fun and enjoyable. And for having me on the panel, pleasure to join the conversation. The next slide, please. I'll start off with a little pitch about the Volvo Group. And this came to a lot of you, but still we're one of the leading global manufacturers of equipment, marine and industrial grade engines. This illustrative slide pretty much shows the different brands that are part of the Volvo Group. You can see that the lion's share of our revenues come from manufacturing and selling trucks. We have a variety of different brands. In North America, we have the Volvo, and about 20% comes from manufacturing and selling the yellow machines or the construction equipment. And Volvo Construction Equipment is the predominant brand, but we also have some joint ventures in other parts. There's about 8 to 9% that comes from buses. Volvo Buses is in Sweden, in parts of Europe, and also in parts of Asia as the Volvo Coach buses. But in North Nova Transit Bus and the Prevost commuter coaches. And then the remaining is from manufacturing and selling of Volvo Penta products. And these are marine and industrial grade engines. And then you'll see in a subsequent slide, we're also getting into the business of the electric driveline and some other things that we're doing within Volvo Penta portfolio and the smorgasbord of the different brands, if you will. We play in a variety of different business areas in the industrial and the commercial vehicle space, not just trucks. We manufacture in about 18 countries and we sell in more than 190 markets globally. The headquarters of Volvo Group is in Gothenburg along the west coast of Sweden. The North American headquarters is in Greensboro, North Carolina. In fact, the U.S. is the single largest country market, if you will, for Volvo Group. And we manufacture and sell our products here in the U.S. In fact, I should say this, the product that we sell in the U.S., the metrics, they're 100% made in, they're actually being manufactured in Pennsylvania. And the product, the buses for the U.S. market here in North America. Next slide, please. Thank you. So sustainability is one of the core principles of the Volvo Group. It is very close to heart. We are committed to the ambitions and climate change goals of the Paris Agreement from a life cycle perspective. The majority of the emissions occurred during the phase of our product. One of our priorities really is to develop solutions that reduce carbon emissions from transportation and the machinery. We believe in supplying energy efficient products and solutions to enhance the productivity of our customers. So we actually even made a recent announcement last year saying that our ambition is to sell 100% fossil-free Volvo Group products from 2040 to be carbon dioxide neutral by 2050. We're following science-based initiatives, targets, so to speak, to come up with these estimates in terms we want to go. So that is really our North Star. And electrification, or electromobility, as some of us like to call it, that is a very critical pathway to getting there, to getting to a carbon neutral society. We want to be a part of this global movement, if you will. I'm proud to say that throughout the company, in different market segments, all these initiatives are actually taken off. And the 8 photos that reflect maybe a few of these initiatives. I'm, of course, partial to the initiatives in North America. And so let's start off with the top row. So moving from left to right, you see the Volvo trucks. These are all battery electric trucks. And so you can go to Volvo Trucks and put in an order, spec your truck, and we offer them in 4 different configurations. And there's obviously a variety of different customization possibilities, but that is something we're doing today. We also made an announcement to these trucks. These are Mack Trucks, and 2 of them are actually in the hand. New York, 1 in North Carolina. There's plenty more that are in the pipeline. People are placing orders, so that's yet another Class 8 application where we're committed to sell electric solutions. The next one, the third one from the left top row, is the Nova Bus. And Nova Bus, they have their all-electric bus, transit bus, and this is the LFSE Plus. An earful, but that is a bus that we're now selling to transit authorities in Canada and the US. They secured our first order. I think this was in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, where we sold 15 transit buses. There's a few more in the pipeline, I'm told, but please stay tuned. But that's another segment where we're obviously very active in North America. The fourth one, those are compact yellow machines, so compact wheel loader and a compact excavator, and that actually in the hands of a couple customers here in San Diego in California, and they're being charged by a mobile charger, also manufactured by Volvo Construction Equipment, and maybe taking on their first assignments here in San Diego, and I'm told that they will. A few more customers will be getting access to them, and we're already accepting orders for these compact electric machines later this year into the next year. So that's something that we're very, very excited about. Moving on to the first one, starting from the left again, that is a Taiko. That's probably this announcement that we made toward the end of March. And if you had the Superman vision, you could sort of see into the terminal tractor manufactured by Taiko. It will have an electric driveline. This is the first of its kind, and Volvo Penta has designed this. This is actually following on the heels of something we did last year where Volvo Penta manufactured the electric driveline working with an OEM in France, I think, for a fire truck. And so is getting really, really good at. Obviously, we're drawing on the learning lessons from one business area. Developing product that really meets patients and demand. So that Volvo Penta is this is a prototype, and there's tractors that are actually in operation today, and then one we expect to offer this as a commercial solution. Taiko is, of course, an esteemed partner. We're also speaking with kids, so that's an area that we're closely looking into. And Actually, I just picked them up, but their initiatives from so previously types of platform. So that is what there are urban stations, then also for subscription. Well, from from the left, the second row again, that is the Nova. That's Volvo electric bus. I should have probably started by saying that the Volvo electric buses have been around for a number of years now, and that is, I would say, where our original journey in the electromobility space started more than 8-9 years ago. So again, we're playing the strength of the Volvo Group, where that technology in conditions where they make sense. We're learning more and more. We try to adapt them, improve them, and bring them to other businesses against the team. And the last one on trucks, but then you can see 3 different types of truck and battery electric platforms, and they will specifically be deployed in France and some other countries in Europe. So that's really sort of a ringside view of the different activities that we have. Electrification, again, bus construction, and electric equipment. Next slide, please. Thank you. So let's just zoom into this. This is something very close to us, North America, specifically in the U.S., and it's a project. You have already come across this project, but Lights project. Lights. This is a public-private partnership, which the Volvo Group is a part. We're so proud to be part of this project. So thanks to the California Climate Investments, funding from the air here in the state, and also leadership and funding from the South Coast Air Quality Management District, who are the lead recipients for this ARB award, if you will. Volvo Group has stepped up to run this project and take care of day-to-day operations in collaboration with the 13 other partners. And so you can see our project partners, not just OEM, we're of course the OEM bringing the electric truck, but we are highly dependent on working with our partners, such as our customers, our dealerships. We're working with the community college at a research university to look at some of the tech. We're very grateful for the role of the project. We also have the utility company who is a partner, and then we also have the infrastructure provider.
Dr. Kailas, I'm just going to jump in here. I think your audio has been a little bit in and out. I really appreciate your patience with this platform. This is something I think we're all familiar with in terms of glitches with webinars. I'd like to invite all of our speakers for the time that we have remaining to turn their cameras on for a brief Q&A session. There are those who are able to. And I'll start us off with, I think a big concern in terms of charging infrastructure is a lack of standardization. That's certainly something that we see in the US with automakers. And I'm curious, Bernat, Michael, and Dr. Kailas, if you have seen any progress with this being made in terms as it's applicable to port electrification, and that could apply to trucks, cranes, ships themselves. If there's any insight you have on that.
Well, if you want me to start, I think that yes, there is a problem because in our case, for example, the ships, they have some characteristics depending on where they are built, and so happens with the terminals. So in the case of onshore power supply, for example, the voltage of the electricity, it's different depending on the ship, but also the frequency can vary from 50 to 60 hertz. And as I explained, we are coordinating and working in this large and important European project called ELING, which pretends to harmonize and take into account all these regulations, legal matters, technical matters, and to fix this during the 3 following years.
Great.
From the airport perspective, we haven't had any challenges with the charging stations themselves. It's very universal, the adaptation, and the only one that a vehicle is the Tesla, but they do provide a free adapter to the users. But our lost and found is getting full of those adapters because some people decide to leave those on our charging stations. So they're expensive to replace, I think 80 to $100, depending on where you are.
Fair enough. Yep. It's a new habit we all need to get into the habit of doing. Anyway, Michael, I have a question specific to you. Does Portland International Airport use any electric buses for internal airport transport?
Unfortunately, that's one of the capital projects that was delayed because of our spend during COVID. We were in the process of converting our diesel buses that we use on the airfield to an alternative fuel. Unsure whether or not we were pursuing completely electric because of the charging infrastructure cost initially to set that up. And because we do have a fleet of 24 compressed natural gas buses, we're currently running on renewable CNG that provides services to our remote facilities, remote parking in our economy lot and our employee lot. But the project should be hitting the books in the near future with some RFIs to get us more information on our available buses. For our airfield use, we do have a larger bus out there with 3 doors, and I think that's one of the challenges with bus manufacturers is the ability to provide 3 doors on the side of a bus or 3 doors for a bus and the integrity of the structure itself. We need them to get on and off the bus pretty quickly in that environment with luggage and such.
Interesting. Gotcha. Sorry, Dr. Kailas, did you want to respond if you're still with us?
Oh yeah, I'm here, and I just from the truck side, I hope you can still hear me clearly.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. There's basically 2 types that are making rounds. I mean, in the light duty sector, we have the CCS1 and the CCS2, and they have sort of gone over to the medium and heavy duty platforms as we speak. CCS1 predominantly used in North America, but then there's obviously we're looking at CCS1 and CCS2 working with our customers because there's obviously the DC charging is the same when you look at both type of the combo connectors, but CCS2 offers AC charging. And if there's the possibility of having a truck sit at a lot for 8 to 10 hours overnight, maybe, and if it has a reasonably powerful onboard AC charger, maybe that could be an option. So we're kind of exploring both sets of combo connectors. But having said that, I think the industry is also looking at higher power chargers and megawatt chargers just because of the needs of the commercial freight sector.
Yeah, lots to try out here. Next, I think, Bernat, this might be more to you, but anyone else can feel free to answer. Do you think that hydrogen will be a better fuel for port equipment than battery electric in the long term?
Well, I think that both are interesting. It depends on the equipment because, for example, we have this terminal in Valencia already electrified for some cranes that they are connected to the grid. So we having this this electricity from renewable sources. This is a perfect solution. But on the other side, for example, there are trucks or terminal tractors that need autonomy. And so far, the hydrogen it's a better option because of the autonomy and because of the refueling time. Have in mind that the hydrogen is refueled like a fossil fuel, like a fuel. It's in a few minutes, while to charge an electric tractor can take from 3 to 5 hours. Although that can also change in the future. That can improve also as well. So both are interesting.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So we're just about out of time. I want to apologize that we didn't get to all of the audience questions. Just a reminder, all of these presentations will be available. I have one final question for all three of our panelists. This is kind of going back to our original question, but what do the three of you see as the biggest hindrance? We talked a lot about communication being a necessity early on, but what do you three see as the biggest hindrance to port electrification currently?
I don't really see a hindrance as much as an opportunity for us. If I were to think really critically on this, I think the hindrance for us would be just the infrastructure coming to the airport environment and how we can capitalize on the electricity available and where we place our charging stations to get best adaptive or best use by our consumers.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Bernat?
I think for us is the harmonization of the different the framework, the different ships coming from different places, and all these energy options. I think that's difficult, and also that the expensive cost of the new technology. So the financing and funding has to be improved, I guess.
Sure. And Dr. Kailas?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thanks. I agree with my co-panelists here. And the one thing that I'll flag here is it's not really a hindrance as much as it's a learning curve, is to really understand the operations that are happening at the ports. If it doesn't break, don't change it. That's sort of the mindset. And I think we really need to sit down with them and see what these applications are and where are the opportunities to electrify. And then something that was also pointed out earlier, where these are expensive commodities. So again, to the extent possible, having the right kind of incentives for vehicles and infrastructure will definitely sort of grease the wheels, so to speak. So I think this will be very good.
Great, fantastic. That's great to hear. I will thank you again, all our panelists. I will be turning it back over to Simbiat to close us out.
Yes, thank you all so much for joining us. We will be sending out Dr. Kailas's webinar slides as well as talking points from the presentation. We do apologize for the technical difficulties today. We want to invite you all to please join us in 2 weeks for our next webinar on May 11th, where we will be highlighting equitable micromobility. This webinar will highlight current programs and efforts by cities and operators to bring equitable access to all communities with regards to micromobility. I also want to take this moment to thank all of our presenters today, as well as our moderator, Barrett, for the wonderful job you did moderating. Thank you all for joining us. And again, we will be sending out the webinar slides as well as the recap shortly after this presentation today. Thank you all, and we hope you have a great rest of your day, or if it's the evening in your time, we hope you have a great evening. Thank you, and have a great.
Thank you so much.